Juru doesn't speak much, but his silence tells stories the world needs to hear. Living with autism, he sees beauty in order, peace in small moments, and truth in every forgotten thing. When he loses his father, his entire world collapses, yet from that pain, he finds purpose. With every room he cleans and every memory he uncovers, he helps the dead move on, and slowly learns how to heal himself. The story opens with a horrifying accident. A young boy, exhausted from work, has his leg crushed by a massive machine. In excruciating pain, he limps home, hoping that if he just rests, maybe the pain will fade away. But fate has other plans. Meanwhile, we meet our protagonist, Juru, a young man with Asperger's syndrome. He stands quietly in front of a large aquarium, eyes fixed on the colorful fish gliding through the water. Unlike most people, Juru doesn't just see fish, he sees life. He recognizes every species, memorizing their names and observing their tiny details, the shape of their fins, the patterns on their scales. The aquarists nearby are amazed at his knowledge. Just then, his best friend Namu arrives to pick him up. She praises him cheerfully, but Juru doesn't respond. His headphones block out the noise of the world, giving him comfort in his own space. Later, Juru heads home. He's greeted warmly by his father, Han Jong-yu, who's preparing a delicious breakfast. The two share a simple but loving bond, quiet, gentle, full of routine. Together, they run a company called Move to Heaven. Their job? To clean and organize the belongings of people who have recently passed away, giving respect to the dead and closure to the living. Their latest case involves a hard-working man named Sangu, who recently died in a tragic accident. As Juru and his father carefully sort through Sangu's belongings, they try to understand the kind of life he lived. They collect his most meaningful possessions into one box, memories that represent who he was. Everything else is respectfully packed away. Later, they decide to attend Sangu's funeral. On the drive there, Juru notices the small convenience store Sangu used to visit often. His father silently realizes that Sangu might have had a personal connection there, perhaps with the cashier. At the funeral, Jong-yu sees Sangu's boss handing Sangu's mother a small severance envelope, insisting the company isn't responsible for his death. It's a heartless gesture, made worse by the fact that Sangu's mother is deaf. A translator delivers the message on her behalf and also receives the box of Sangu's final belongings from Move to Heaven. Soon, we discover the painful truth. Sangu was the same boy from the opening scene, the one who got his leg crushed at work. His text messages reveal that his boss refused to grant him medical leave. Injured and helpless, Sangu eventually succumbed to his wounds. Unable to bear the disrespect, Jong-yu steps in. He grabs the boss's arm, forcing him to face Sangu's mother. Through the translator, she returns the envelope of money, signing with trembling hands, "I will not trade my son's life for money." The room falls silent. Meanwhile, Juru wanders into the hospital, following a nurse. He wants to retrieve her name badge, a memento he plans to place among Sangu's belongings. Misunderstood, he causes a small scene, but Jong-yu quickly arrives to calm things down. Then, tragedy strikes. Jong-yu receives a call and heads upstairs to meet a lawyer, leaving Juru to wait in the car, watching fish swim in a nearby tank. Moments later, Jong-yu clutches his chest in agony and collapses in the hallway. People pass by without helping as he lies motionless on the floor. Unaware of what's happening, Juru patiently waits in the car. His father's phone rings. It's a final apology before everything goes silent. An ambulance races to the scene. Trying to reach his father, Juru panics and drives off, but the car halts on a bridge, blocking traffic. A police officer approaches, confused, but then Namu arrives. She rushes to the car, tears streaming down her face, as she embraces Juru tightly. Jong-yu has passed away. Days later, at the cremation ceremony, Juru stands still, holding the urn with his father's ashes. His lips tremble as he whispers the last words his father ever said to him. "Dad is always with Juru." The boy clings to those words, trying to piece together a life without the one person who understood him most. Some time passes. A man arrives at the house, Juru's estranged uncle, Sangu. He's rough, careless, and smokes indoors without asking. With him moving in, Juru's quiet world is about to change forever. The story cuts back in time. A heavy metal gate slides open, and Sangu walks out of a correctional facility, free, but far from redeemed. His face is cold, hardened by years of fighting and regret. Waiting for him outside is Lawyer O, who delivers shocking news. Sangu's brother, Han Jong-yu, has passed away. Sangu doesn't mourn. Instead, he lets out a bitter chuckle, almost relieved. For him, his brother's death feels like a chance to erase the guilt of their broken relationship. But Lawyer O continues. According to Jong-yu's will, Sangu has been named as the legal guardian of his nephew, Han Juru. Uninterested and unaware of Juryu's condition, Sangu turns away without a word. Later that night, he wanders into a grimy bar, a place where illegal cage fights happen in the back. He talks to the bar owner, asking about guardianship laws. When he learns that a guardian can take control of the ward's assets, his expression changes. That's when greed takes over. Lawyer O reveals that Juryu's father left behind a sizable inheritance, and suddenly, Sangu's interest is piqued. He doesn't see family, only fortune. Back at home, Namu does her best to protect Juru. But legally, there's little she can do. The court has approved Sangu as the temporary guardian for a 3-month trial period. If he fails, custody will be reassessed. Until then, Namu vows to keep an eye on him. But life under the same roof is anything but peaceful. Sangu's rough, careless attitude clashes with Juryu's structured routines. When arguments break out, Juru becomes overwhelmed, banging his head against the door in frustration. Namu rushes in to calm him down, forcing Sangu to sleep outside in a tent that night. As the evening grows quiet, Sangu looks around the room that once belonged to his brother. Memories of Jong-yu's success and redemption sting his pride. Sitting before Juru, who's curled up clutching a pillow, Sangu blows cigarette smoke into the air and mutters. "Don't worry, kid. I'll take care of you. Your dad's precious son." But his words carry no warmth, only mockery. Later, Juru visits the aquarium again, his safe place. But when his emotions spiral, he begins hitting his head against the glass. Namu arrives just in time, pulling him away. By morning, the house is in ruins, Sangu's mess everywhere. Namu phones Lawyer O, furious, but the lawyer reminds her he has 3 months to prove himself. Only then can we decide if he's fit to stay. Determined to keep things in order, Juru starts cleaning up. Despite everything, he insists on continuing Move to Heaven's work, with Sangu reluctantly tagging along. Sangu takes the driver's seat, reckless and impatient. He speeds through the streets, ignoring every rule of the road, while Juru clutches his seat in panic. But despite all the chaos, Sangu smirks, impressed by how well Juru memorizes every detail of their job. Their next assignment leads them to Ms. Lee's apartment, a small, suffocating room filled with the stench of death. When Sangu opens the door, he freezes. Maggots crawl across the floor. The air is thick with decay. Overwhelmed, he stumbles outside to vomit. But Juru stays. Calm and focused, he recalls his father's rules to treat every room as sacred, and every object as part of a person's life. Step by step, he cleans with care, honoring Ms. Lee's memory. Inside, her relatives arrive, but they're not here to mourn. Their eyes go straight to the money. Wearing gloves, they dig through the filth, pulling out crumpled bills from under the mattress. They don't care about Ms. Lee's memories, only her hidden cash. Disgusted, Sangu watches silently from the doorway as they instruct Juru to decontaminate the money so it can be exchanged at the bank. When the job is finally done, they load the yellow box of Ms. Lee's belongings into a truck for disposal. Sangu tosses it aside carelessly, just another job done. But for Juru, it's far from over. Back home, he begins carefully washing and drying each of the dirty banknotes, determined to uncover their meaning. Something about the money doesn't sit right with him. Later, he heads to the bank, his father's lessons echoing in his mind. There's a story hidden in those stained notes, and Juru is about to solve it. The story picks up right where we left off. This time, we see Lee Yun-sun, the elderly woman whose home Juru just cleaned, visiting her local bank. Every week, she withdraws exactly 50,000 won, no more, no less. At first, it seems like a simple routine. But as the story unfolds, we learn the heartbreaking truth: Yunsun was suffering from dementia. Each withdrawal wasn't about money, it was about memory. She simply couldn't remember she'd already taken it out. Juru, with his sharp observation skills, pieces everything together. He grabs his lollipop, his quiet way of focusing, and follows the GPS tracker on his phone, determined to understand what Ms. Lee was trying to do with all that money. But halfway through his search, his phone battery dies. Lost and alone, he carefully retraces his steps and eventually makes it home, where both Namu and Sangu are waiting. Namu, moved by everything she's seen, decides to join Juru at Move to Heaven. But her mother is furious. She believes the job involves handling corpses and accuses her daughter of throwing her future away. Only Namu's father seems to understand. After a tense conversation, he allows her to work with Juru for 3 months. When Namu returns to the house, she walks in on chaos. Sangu is Juru in a headlock, and the boy is panicking. Juru is desperately looking for the yellow memory box from Ms. Lee's case, the very same one Sangu carelessly threw into the trash. Ashamed, Sangu admits it. Without hesitation, the three of them head to the dump site, determined to find it. They sift through mountains of garbage under the hot sun, dirty, exhausted, but unwilling to give up. Finally, they find it, the yellow box, covered in grime but still intact. But when they meet Park Cheol-yu, Ms. Lee's son, Juru refuses to hand over the money. Something doesn't feel right. He insists on following Cheol-yu instead, leading them to a small tailor's shop. There, the truth unfolds. Ms. Lee wasn't hoarding the money for herself, she was saving it to buy her son a suit, something to make him proud and dignified. But Cheol-yu doesn't care. He angrily grabs the box, shouting that he just wants his money. In the scuffle, the contents spill onto the floor and out falls a set of thermal underwear, still wrapped. Cheol-yu freezes. It's the first gift he ever bought his mother with his own paycheck. Suddenly, the memories come flooding back: his mother's kindness, her sacrifices, her love. Tears well up as Cheol-yu breaks down, sobbing uncontrollably. For the first time, he truly grieves for his mother. That night, Sangu finds himself dragged back into the violent world he's been trying to escape. A club promoter forces him into another underground fight, demanding he deliberately lose the match. With no choice and debts weighing heavy, Sangu agrees. He leaves the ring bruised and bloodied, a small cut on his lip a reminder of how trapped he really is. Namu starts to notice the change in him. The bruises, the late nights, she once thought he had a girlfriend. But now, she realizes something darker is going on. Before she can confront him, another case comes in for Move to Heaven. This time, all three of them, Juru, Sangu, and Namu, head out together. When they arrive, Officer Jun Yang is already at the scene, a familiar face who clearly shares some chemistry with Namu. The apartment they enter is cold, silent, and covered in bloodstains. The police have already cleared the crime scene, it's been 2 weeks since the killing. Even so, Juru steps forward, removes his hat, and bows his head. Lee Xianyang, he whispers softly, honoring the deceased. Then, with quiet determination, he begins to work, turning tragedy into remembrance, just as his father taught him. The episode opens with a statement about Lee Xianyang's tragic death, murdered by her own boyfriend. According to his story, Xianyang had come at him with a knife, threatening to end her life. He claimed they wrestled for control, and in the chaos, he fell on top of her, the knife plunging into her stomach. But as we soon learn, that's not the whole truth. The Move to Heaven team arrives at her apartment, ready to clean the scene. Outside, Sangu is mistaken for a professional corpse cleaner, while inside, Juru sits quietly at the piano. As Moonlight Sonata fills the air, he carefully restores Xianyang's yellow box, her final story waiting to be told. The residents are on edge, disturbed by the tragedy that happened in their building. The landlord demands they move their van immediately, but Juru, ever precise, insists they split the cleanup into 2 days, one for tidying, another for sterilizing. While tearing down the old wallpaper, Sangu freezes. The sound of ripping paper triggers buried memories, his parents' violent fights, the screams, the fear. The pain on his face says it all. His tough exterior has always been armor against a childhood filled with domestic abuse. Elsewhere, Namu and Juru visit the kindergarten where Seon-yang once worked. She had been a loving teacher, kind, patient, and adored by her students. Among the books and crafts, Juru spots a sign for the Rose class and insists they find a woman named Unmi. Unmi breaks down the moment she sees them. Between sobs, she reveals the truth: Seon-yang wasn't violent. She had been the victim all along. The bruises on her body, the fact that she quit her job, it all pointed to long-term domestic violence. That night, Juru can't sleep. Something about the case still doesn't add up. He remembers seeing no pet in Seon-yang's apartment, an odd inconsistency in her belongings. Suddenly, a thought strikes him. Without a word, he grabs his things and heads out into the night. Sangu, half asleep, sighs and follows. At the apartment, Juru begins searching every corner, driven by instinct. Eventually, he finds it, a hidden security camera, tucked away inside the air conditioner. At the same time, Mr. Kim gives his official statement at the station. He repeats his lie about the knife and the accident. But Sangu demands the investigators call the police immediately because what Juru found changes everything. When the footage is played, the truth finally comes out. Mr. Kim wasn't defending himself. He was the aggressor. On the screen, he grabs the knife and stabs Seon-yang in cold blood, sneering that there's only one way she can ever leave him, by dying. The mask falls away. His entire story was a lie. Thanks to Juru's sharp eyes, noticing the manual for a security camera among the belongings, the truth is exposed, and justice is finally served. Later, Juru stands silently outside the prosecutor's office as Mr. Kim is led away in handcuffs. He holds up a mosaic drawn by Seon-yang's students, filled with bright colors and smiling faces. A reminder of the light she brought to others, even as her own life dimmed in the shadows of abuse. It's a painful, tragic story, one that shows how love, when twisted by control and fear, can destroy everything beautiful. But the sadness doesn't end there. Back at home, Sangu's struggles deepen. It's revealed that he owes 5 million won every week, just in interest. If he can't pay, he'll be forced to fight again. Namu notices him leaving an estate agency and quietly follows. Inside, she learns something shocking: Sangu is trying to sell Juru's house. But she doesn't yet know why. That night, another sound echoes through the neighborhood, the same screams of domestic violence Sangu once endured. From a nearby apartment, a man beats his partner. This time, Sangu can't stand by. Seeing the woman barefoot and terrified, he steps in, fists clenched. He beats the abuser mercilessly, rage and trauma spilling out after years of silence. Namu watches from a distance, frozen in disbelief. Later, she checks on Juru, worried about his safety. But Juru assures her his uncle has never hurt him. And when Sangu returns home, his nephew notices a deep cut on his wrist. Quietly, Juru treats it with ointment, showing a tenderness that words can't express. Days turn into nights. Namu continues following Sangu, suspecting something darker beneath his silence. Eventually, she discovers the truth. She finds him at an underground club, fighting for money. But this isn't a fight. It's a beating. Sangu stands bloodied and broken, taking punch after punch, barely able to stay on his feet. All for a debt he can never seem to repay. The camera lingers on his face, swollen, bruised, defeated. And yet, behind those eyes, there's still a glimmer of pain, regret, and something that feels like redemption waiting to be found. The story opens at Sihai University Hospital. The air is thick with tension, a hostage situation spirals out of control. Amid the chaos, Dr. Young Soo-hyun tries to calm the situation. But in one shocking instant, he's slashed across the neck. As he collapses, blood pooling beneath him, the room falls silent. The scene fades into darkness. We cut to Juru, standing in front of the aquarium, making funny faces at the fish, a brief, innocent moment that hides the storm ahead. Soon, the Move to Heaven team is called to their next case. Their destination, one village townhouse, the home of the late Dr. Young Soo-hyun. Following their quiet ritual of respect, Juru puts on his headphones and begins organizing the room. Then, something catches his eye: a letter, tucked neatly among Soo-hyun's belongings. Juru takes the letter to Soo-hyun's father. But instead of reading it, the man coldly throws it into the fire. Juru desperately tries to pull it out, burning his hand in the process. Still, he refuses to give up. This was Soo-hyun's final wish, and he's determined to deliver the letter no matter what. Later, the group gathers, trying to uncover who the letter was meant for. Their clues point to a mystery lover, someone connected to classical music. They sift through concert flyers, searching for hints, until one stands out. A first blind concert happening the next day. Their gut tells them the person they're looking for will be there. At the concert hall, a strict receptionist blocks their entry. But when Juru suddenly claims he needs to use the restroom, they seize the moment and sneak in. They ask each cellist if they knew Dr. Soo-hyun, but everyone shakes their head, until a new clue appears. In the bathroom, Juru spots a man with a tattoo on his wrist. The name's Soo-hyun. The man's name is Ian Park. When Juru tells him that Soo-hyun has passed away, silence fills the air. Ian's face breaks, he turns and runs, grief taking over completely. Staff rush to find him, but he's already gone. The team begins retracing the lovers' past. Their story began a year earlier, on Christmas Day. Ian was a patient, and Soo-hyun, his doctor. Music brought them together, the soft melody of a cello echoing in the hospital halls. Their connection grew quietly, tenderly, laughter, shared looks, hands intertwined under the flicker of a movie theater screen. But love isn't always kind. Ian was offered a place at a music school in San Francisco. At the same time, Soo-hyun's parents pressured him to marry a woman. Torn between duty and love, Soo-hyun broke Ian's heart, leaving him at the airport, watching the man he loved disappear. Now, back in the present, Juru finds Ian on a rooftop, lost in sorrow. He hands him a box, Soo-hyun's belongings. Inside, Ian finds concert tickets and plane tickets. Proof that Soo-hyun had planned to leave everything behind to be with him. Juru, remembering every word of the burned letter, recites it aloud. It's a message of courage and love. Of two souls who once hid in fear, now yearning to live truthfully. I don't want to live like a coward anymore, the letter reads. And it ends simply. I love you. That night, Ian performs at the concert. As he plays, he imagines Soo-hyun in the audience, smiling back at him. The song he chooses, We Wish You a Merry Christmas. The same melody that marked the beginning of their love. Tears fall freely, a farewell wrapped in music and memory. Another soul is finally at peace. After the case, the Move to Heaven team heads home. Each of them quietly reflects on what love, loss, and courage really mean. Sangu, especially, seems deep in thought. Haunted by something he's yet to say. Later that night, he visits a nursing home. There, he stands beside a comatose young man named Soo-cheol. He looks down at him and mutters, "You're my mortal enemy, so wake up." The mystery deepens, and for now, we're left wondering how their fates are intertwined. The episode opens quietly. An elderly man named Kim In-soo works as a janitor, lifting heavy boxes and trash bags with slow, tired hands. But suddenly, tragedy strikes. While crossing the street, he's hit by a car. The impact sends him to the hospital, his body frail and bruised. Despite his pain, In-soo stubbornly ignores the doctor's advice. He gets dressed, signs his discharge papers, and walks down the hall to the next room, where his beloved wife lies resting. Before leaving, he crosses paths with Sangu, who's standing outside smoking. The old man politely asks him to put out his cigarette, even addressing him as sir. For an elder to call a younger man sir in Korea, that's rare, and deeply respectful. Meanwhile, Namu meets with lawyer Oh, voicing her concerns about Sangu's behavior toward Juru. But the lawyer reminds her the 3-month guardianship period still stands. There's nothing more she can do, except be there for Juru. Before she leaves, lawyer Oh calls her Juru's good tree, a person who gives him strength. Later, Sangu unexpectedly praises Namu to her mother, showing a side of warmth we rarely see. Soon after, Sangu and Juru receive another request, or as Sangu calls it, an order. Juru quickly corrects him. They arrive at an apartment and find a letter waiting for them. It's from an elderly couple, written in shaky handwriting. To those who came to clean up after us. We're sorry. We've decided to leave this world together. The message chills the room. It turns out that Kim In-soo had sent the request 3 days earlier while he was still alive. He knew what was coming. He wanted to die on his own terms, together with his wife, Mi-seon, who had long been suffering in a nursing home. Sangu was furious. He calls it murder and storms out, refusing to help. But Juru quietly continues cleaning, whispering that he'll deduct Sangu's pay for skipping work. Reluctantly, Sangu returns. As he opens a window for fresh air, something catches his eye. A hidden door. Behind it lies a beautiful greenhouse, filled with lush plants, sunlight, and peace. The social worker, Yusin, arrives and gently tells Sangu, "This isn't suicide, it's love." Her words hang in the air. For the first time, Sangu's anger softens. Juru decides not to clear out the greenhouse. Instead, he visits Block 105, the apartment complex nearby, returning the plants to their rightful homes. As he knocks on doors, we see a flashback, Kim In-soo speaking with the landlord. A little girl had raised money to buy him an air conditioner. But the humble janitor refused, saying kindly, "Keep it. Buy one for yourself instead." Meanwhile, Sangu sits with Yusin. She explains how the couple obtained sleeping pills from the hospital. Her words remind Sangu of Soo-cheol, the comatose man he once fought. Earlier, he had begged a shady club promoter to bring Soo-cheol back, saying, "If he dies, it's on you." Kim In-soo's story becomes clearer. He was diagnosed with terminal pancreatic cancer. Rather than die alone, he granted his wife's wish to go together. At their funeral, the Move to Heaven team gathers. There's no family, only flowers. Each bloom represents a part of their story, love, devotion, and farewell. Even little Min-ji is there, placing a flower with both hands. Sangu bows deeply. Then, he quietly takes a wreath from a neighboring funeral to lay beside In-soo's photo. Juru finds old business cards from 1981 and hands them to visitors. Most people don't recognize the name until one man enters. The chairman, walking with a cane, stops when he hears Kim In-soo. He remembers. He walks into the room, lights an incense stick, and bows. One by one, other workers follow. A silent, beautiful moment of respect for a man who once cleaned their halls. Later, as the crowd leaves, Yurim, the social worker, shares a quiet moment with Sangu. There's warmth between them, something unspoken but real. Juru notices and gently hands Sangu a small plant. "It's from Mr. Kim's greenhouse," he says softly. "It's from Yurim." The plant symbolizes hope and life continuing on. That night, peace is shattered. Sangu's phone rings. It's Soo-jin, sobbing uncontrollably. Through her tears, she cries, "Soo-cheol, he's in critical condition." Sangu freezes. Then, without a word, he bolts out of the house. Racing through the streets, fighting back tears. Desperate to reach the hospital before it's too late. The screen fades to black. And we're left with the weight of one story ending. And another about to begin. The episode wastes no time. Sangu races through the streets, heart hammering, feet pounding the pavement. He bursts into the hospital, desperate, panicked only to learn the worst. Soo-cheol has fainted and is in critical condition. Surgery may be required, and time is slipping away. Determined not to let his friend slip away, Sangu storms back to Juru's house, scrambling to gather the money needed for the operation. His eyes land on property registration forms, and he grabs them, muttering a silent apology to Jong-yu's photo. "We're even now." Meanwhile, back home, Namu talks with Juru, wondering aloud. Is Sangu really a good man, or is there darkness inside him too? Juru remains silent, observing, because the truth is, Sangu is a mix of both. The story then flashes back 10 years. A younger Sangu crosses paths with Soo-cheol, a boy tormented by bullies, standing on the edge, ready to jump. Without hesitation, Sangu intervenes. He slaps the bullies aside with one hand, saving the boy's life in that moment. That act of compassion changes everything. Sucheol is drawn to boxing, and under Sangu's guidance, a student-teacher bond blossoms into brotherhood. Together, they train, they sweat, they fight, and the bond even catches the eye of Sujin, Sucheol's sister, who smiles seeing her brother so alive and determined. This is the origin story, the reason Sucheol entered the boxing ring, the same path that would later bring so much pain. Back in the present, Sangu returns to the fight promoter, pleading, bargaining, desperate. Finally, she hands over the money for Sucheol's surgery, but only on one condition: he must place it all on a single fight. He agrees. He signs. He rushes to the hospital. But tragedy strikes. Sucheol has passed away in the time Sangu was gone. Grief and guilt crash over him. Now, just like Juru has done all season, Sangu is forced to clean out Sucheol's room. Photos, trophies, personal belongings, even medical records revealing the harsh reality: chronic traumatic encephalopathy, or CTE. Repeated head trauma, the very reason Sucheol had considered quitting boxing, had silently stolen his health. The cruel twist? The promoter, a woman known only as Madam, orchestrated a fight between Sangu and Sucheol. She watches coldly from the sidelines, while Jongyu looks on from the crowd. Sucheol had claimed the fight was to make money for his new business. But in truth, it was to pay for his medical bills. The match is brutal. The anger, frustration, and heartbreak Sangu has carried for years boil over. With one final, devastating blow to Sucheol's face, he falls and never rises again. Sangu crumples beside his friend, tears streaming. "I'm so sorry, my friend." This is the guilt that has haunted Sangu all these years, the driving force behind his desperate, protective nature toward Sucheol. As Sangu clears out the room, his eyes fall on a business card. It reads, "Move to heaven," an instruction for Jongyu to show up. A small piece of hope, a spark of continuity, even amidst the tragedy. Sangu struggles to hold back tears, full of rage and grief. With a box of Sucheol's belongings in hand, he hands it over to Sujin before stepping outside, trying to steady himself. He speaks to the fight promoter one last time. "I'll pay off my debt, but I'm done. No more fights." He even messages Juru, assuring him he's leaving for good. Meanwhile, Namu rushes to check on the boy, while Juru tries to track down his uncle. Sangu is doing manual labor, but that doesn't stop Juru from putting up posters around town, desperately looking for him. But the posters attract attention. Juru is grabbed by a group of men, collateral damage in Madam's twisted scheme to lure Sangu back into the ring. Sangu rushes to the arena, checking on Juru to make sure his nephew is safe. It's clear, Juru is Sangu's Achilles heel. Despite his efforts to hide it, Namu sees right through him. Juru, however, doesn't understand the danger and is devastated when Sangu tells him not to follow him home. The next day, Sangu wakes hungover, nauseous, and exhausted. Juru sets off alone for his annual picnic with his father, a tradition now falling solely on him. Namu convinces Sangu to tag along, reminding him of his guardian duties. At the theme park, Juru wanders alone, exploring rides and food stalls. When a group of minors begins bullying him in the bathroom, Sangu intervenes, playing police sirens on his phone to scare them off. Eventually, he joins Juru on the rides. At first terrified, Sangu is convinced to embrace the thrill, feeling the wind on his face, adrenaline pumping. On the final ride, the merry-go-round, Sangu notices Jongyu's presence reflected in Juru's memories. It's a cathartic, almost symbolic moment. Yet, as always, Juru heads off alone afterward, instructing Sangu not to follow. Sangu respects his wishes, observing from afar as his nephew enjoys the day. The scene shifts to Sangu's past. In 1994, he snuck into the amusement park with Jongyu to celebrate his birthday, riding every ride and visiting different food stalls. A year later, in 1995, his abusive father passes away. Sangu is slated to enter an orphanage, but Jongyu promises to fulfill his birthday wish, only to not show up. Sangu feels abandoned and betrayed. 3 days pass, and he remains alone. Back in the present, Sangu finds Juru making rock cairns, silently praying for health and happiness for someone Jongyu loved, of course, for Sangu. The anger and hurt he's carried all these years finally surface. Juru explains, Jong-yu had a terrible accident at the Sampung department store on the day he was supposed to celebrate Sangu's birthday. He was trapped for 3 days, clinging to a Nike shoebox, thinking only of his friend. Inside, he left a note. From your brother. Every year since, Jong-yu has continued the tradition, delivering gifts as a way to make up for that missed birthday. As the episode closes, Sangu discovers something new, an adoption certificate. It confirms that Juru is not Jong-yu's biological child, a revelation that adds another layer to his complex relationship with his nephew. The episode opens with home videos, paving the way to introduce 29-year-old Songmin. Songmin grew up in the United States, but life there was difficult. He struggled to fit in, eventually ran into legal trouble, and wound up returning to Korea, searching for his birth mother. The search proves fruitless. Compounded by his limited Korean and a heart condition, Songmin drifts through life, ultimately passing away quietly amidst a sea of rubbish and broken dreams. Meanwhile, Sangu washes the move to heaven van alongside Namu. In conversation, Sangu senses that Namu harbors feelings for Juru, which, surprisingly, stretch back to when she was just 6. Their conversation is cut short by another request, cleaning out Songmin, also known as Matthew, who passed away due to his genetic heart condition at the Chris-N Motel. The scene is grim rubbish littering the floor, blood-stained bedding. While cleaning, Juru uncovers a necklace belonging to Matthew's dog, AG, prompting him to investigate further. Sangu presses the social worker who oversaw Matthew's case. It turns out his mother had issues seeing him. After his adoption was dissolved, she sent him to the United States due to his heart condition. Upon his return, she still refused contact. This also means she won't inherit Songmin's belongings. Juru carefully tapes the torn pages of Matthew's book back together. His sharp eye stops on a picture of Eunjong, Matthew's birth mother. Tracking her down, Juru and Sangu confront Eunjong about Songmin. Initially skeptical, she gradually realizes he is, in fact, the child she once helped raise at a foster home. Songmin, not understanding Korean fully, had always believed these pictures represented his mother. Using broken Korean, he eventually introduced himself with his American name, Matthew Green. This misunderstanding drove his disappointment, drinking, and torn-out pages. Sangu channels his own regrets to explain the emotional weight to Eunjong, helping her process her own loss and guilt. Next, they visit the Animal Medical Center, returning AG's collar to his loyal companion. Back on the road, a news broadcast features Eunjong delivering an impassioned message about the flaws in overseas adoption, highlighting children like Songmin caught in the system. Juru quietly acknowledges that he too has lived through similar struggles. Back home, Sangu receives a call from Madam, confirming his next fight at 11 p.m. He stresses that his documents must remain safe and vows retaliation if they are compromised. The next morning, Juru wakes to find Sangu cooking breakfast, reminiscent of Jong-yu's last day. Concerned for his uncle, Juru notices the plates are swapped, a small act that mirrors the past. Sangu takes a last glance at Juru before leaving. The other plate at the table is for Namu, arriving just in time. Sangu claims he has no home, sending a chill down their spines. Both Juru and Namu sense danger. They discover documents labeled punch drunk, realizing Sangu could be in serious jeopardy. The stage is set for another tense and emotional arc, balancing family, loss, and the shadow of Sangu's fighting life. The drama's finale opens with Sangu fighting for his life in the ring. As he maneuvers through the octagon, Juru and Namu rush to the scene to check on him. But when Sangu notices them in the audience, it becomes the perfect distraction for his opponent to hide a blade in his glove. Quick-thinking Juru switches off the lights and pulls Sangu to safety. Despite bleeding from the head, Sangu reassures everyone he doesn't have punch-drunk syndrome as they head to the hospital. With him safe, police swoop in to dismantle the illegal gambling den, arresting all involved. The ordeal leaves Juru visibly traumatized, struggling with nightmares. The following morning, news reports confirm the gambling den has been shut down, but Juru insists on focusing on breakfast. The moment is interrupted by Lawyer O, reminding Juru to decide about Jong-yu's ashes at the memorial center. Overwhelmed, Juru sneaks out alone, prompting Namu, her parents, and Sangu to search for him. Through flashbacks, we learn more about Juru's childhood. He rarely spoke as a child, first finding his voice at the Sea Life Center, repeating fish facts aloud. Sangu discovers a photo of Jongyu as a firefighter, leading to the story of how Jongyu found an abandoned child in a water tank cellar and decided to adopt him. Juru grew up as the mascot of the fire station, enjoying moments of happiness with his family until the passing of his mother. In grief, Jongyu comforted him, "Your mother is in your heart and your eyes." Back in the present, Sangu finds Juru at the aquarium from their childhood, assuring him that the dead still speak. Inspired, Juru begins clearing out his father's room, confronting the emotions he had long suppressed. In an emotional climax, Juru discovers Jongyu's phone and watches a video message meant for him, a tender, heartfelt final goodbye from his father. At the memorial center, Juru and his loved ones say their farewells to Jongyu, planting a tree in his memory. Juru hugs the tree tightly, symbolizing closure and the continuation of life. 3 months later, the end of the guardianship period arrives. Legally, Sangu is disqualified, but Juru personally requests him to continue as his guardian, breaking through Sangu's tough exterior and prompting a genuine, heartfelt smile of gratitude. The series closes with a new client arriving at Juru's doorstep for Move to Heaven. A white butterfly lands on her head and flies away, symbolizing hope, continuity, and the enduring connection between the living and the departed.